Today at his home in Los Angeles, the president-elect met with his staff to discuss the transition from the Carter to the Reagan administrations, welcomed his vice president-elect, and even took time to talk with an unelected do-anything reporter. I must say, sir, that you don't give the appearance of a man who has just had the weight of the world dropped on his shoulders. How are you feeling today?
Well, feeling just fine and still trying to get used to the idea.
Mr. President-elect, what will be your first priority after taking office, after you deliver your inaugural address?
Well, as I've said many times in the campaign, I would like to put a freeze on the hiring of employees to replace those who leave government service. We did that also in California, found it was most effective in holding down the growth in the size of government. But I also, we haven't really sat down to that kind of priority yet, but I would like to get immediately at the economic program that I have discussed in the campaign to bring an end as quickly as possible to the things that are putting our people out of work.
So you intend to hit the ground running with the program all set?
That's what I'd like to do.
Mr. President-elect, during this transition period, I wonder if you plan or wish to take any action or make any statement that might persuade the Iranians to deal with President Carter now, to get the hostages out now, just as soon as possible.
Well, I realize that this, of course, is, you know, the president is still the president until there's an inauguration, but I have made it plain to him in our conversation that if there is anything that they think of in any way that I can be helpful on any subject in these intervening months, that I would be most happy to cooperate.
And that, of course, would include any terms for the release of the hostages.
Yes, if that would be of any help, I'm just, I think like everyone else, hoping and praying that they're home soon. I realize, of course, that we cannot, however, we can't hurt the integrity of our nation in whatever we do. So it isn't a case of making our dreams come true at any price.
Mr. President-elect, as you well know, the major charge against you during the campaign was that you might tend to be too belligerent in dealing with the Soviets. The country obviously rejected that charge yesterday, but I wonder, what is it that you want the Kremlin to know or expect from the Reagan administration?
Well, I want them to know that I am prepared to negotiate limitation of arms, hopefully a reduction of arms. But it must be a two-way street, and I think that there has to be what has been termed in recent months linkage. I don't think you can sit down at a table and simply talk about the weapons that each side is going to have or not going to have and not mention their aggressive pattern, such things as the invasion of Afghanistan. I think their course of conduct in the world has to be a part of negotiations.
How do you interpret your mandate? What do you believe the American people have told you to do?
I think the American people have made it plain in the... someone just came into our picture
yes,
here.
Let's acknowledge the presence of the First Lady-to-be. Can you hear me, Mrs. Reagan?
Yes, Ray.
Oh, that's fine. So nice to see you.
It's nice to hear you.
Can I ask you, Mrs. Reagan, what was your feeling yesterday when you were told, I gather it was fairly early in the day, that things were going the way you had hoped and planned? Was it a sense of relief or maybe a little trepidation, or just how did you feel about it? Were you a little scared?
I couldn't believe it, Frank. And I don't think I still do. I think it's going to take a little while for the whole thing to sink in. I certainly didn't. I just didn't believe it.
You didn't believe it? Well, after the long campaign and everything else, it just kind of overwhelmed you, is that it?
Uh-huh. And I thought if there was any chance of our winning, that it would be one of those long nights where you'd seesaw back and forth. And
yes.
I was prepared to stay up until about 3 o'clock in the morning.
Well, that's what all the experts told us, you know, that it was going to be a very close one, a cliffhanger. But the country obviously had different ideas. Mr. President-elect, I'm going to have to ask you this question, and I think you will understand. Many people believe that you intend to serve only one term because of your age. Are they right?
I have no way of answering that. I can only answer it, again, the way I answered it before as a governor. I am going to make every decision that has to be made on the basis that I only have these 4 years. I think you sleep better if you do it that way. What I mean is, no decisions will be made by even, or as a result of even discussing the political ramifications. As a matter of fact, in California, I refuse to let anyone, my staff or cabinet, ever bring up the political ramifications of any issue. I would do the same thing at the national level. And then it'll be up to the people at the end of 4 years to decide whether they want you to continue or not. But I think there's been too much of serving one term with your eye on the next election. And I want to start in the first 24 hours doing what I think needs to be done.
Thank you, sir. Mr. President-elect, again, congratulations. Thank you very much for taking the time on this day after your great victory to talk with us. Mrs. Reagan, thank you, too, for joining us.
We hope to see you soon.
Yes, we'll look forward to seeing you when you come back to your now permanent residence.
Oh, Frank, can you believe it?
I don't know how you're going to like living in that museum, but I'm sure that you'll be able to get out.
I'm having trouble believing it, Frank.
Oh, well.
I understand they provide transportation of some kind or other.
They certainly do. And you won't have to walk to work, boy. Well.
No more Holiday Inns.
No more Holiday Inns.